Welcome into the newest episode of the Hoth Hangout podcast. That's going to be another fun one today. We've got the Sith draft, as we're calling it, coming up a little bit later on. It's going to be exciting. Joey and I are both going to pick our top 5 Sith or dark side Force users. And thanks again for joining us for this episode. If you are not subscribed to the Hoth Hangout YouTube channel, definitely check us out there for the video version of the podcast. You can also listen to us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And also follow us on all the socials at Hoth Hangout, whether it's Twitter, TikTok, or Instagram. Would love to see you over there on any one of those. Like I said, it's going to be a fun episode today. We're talking Sith. I got the hood up for this one. Joey, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm just looking at you with the hood on. That's making me laugh.
You don't know the power. Right.
Yeah, no, it's a good week. We had Father's Day over the weekend. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later.
Yeah.
But yeah, so happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. But good week so far. It's going to be our last episode together for a little while, because
True.
you'll be traveling the world over the next couple of weeks. So we'll miss you, Ben.
Yes, I will be gone for the next 3 weeks. We probably will, I imagine, would try to record one. I get back in the middle of July, then I go to Mexico for a week. So hopefully record maybe 2 episodes between when I'm back and when I leave for Mexico. But you will be still recording and releasing episodes while I am not able to during the time when I'm gone.
Yes, I will try to steer this boat not into the depths of the internet where we just can't be found anymore. So I'm going to try to keep it rolling while you're gone. So wish me luck.
Yes, and also special co-host next week, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you will find out a little bit more about that. Yeah.
Nice. Well, before we move into some of our Father's Day information, was there any Star Wars news we wanted to touch on or anything like that? I know it was kind of a lighter week.
It was a very light week.
Star Wars news.
I mean, I hadn't heard anything going on really with Star Wars that
just continuing anticipation for Ahsoka.
Yeah, basically we are a couple months away from that, so very exciting for that.
I think
other than that,
less
nothing.
than 2, isn't it? Less than 2 months now?
Yeah, August 26th.
Oh, a little more than 2 months.
Yeah.
Well, as you previously said, it was recently Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. We wanted to touch on some of our... Ooh, that's a cool shirt. For those of you watching the video version of the podcast, check out Joey's shirt. Best dad in the galaxy. We're going to talk just about a couple of our favorite dads in Star Wars, and we've got a few of them here on the screen as well. Vader, Owen Lars, Bail Organa, Din Djarin. That's a father to Grogu right there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I love the fact that in our list here, you've also included Hunter, and if you're watching the video version of the podcast, you can see him too, because he's basically a dad to Omega. At this point.
I think that was one of my when I was looking up fathers in Star Wars, he came up in the list. I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. And when we were talking about him during Bad Batch, he was very much a father figure to her, while the other ones were kind of more like brothers. Yeah. So I think including him in the Father's Day segment of today seemed appropriate.
Yeah, I agree. And same thing with Din Djarin too, kind of how he is with Grogu.
Right. Well, he did adopt him Mandalorian style, whatever the adoption process is for. I mean, he just basically said, "I'll adopt him," and then
by Mandalorian customs, does that make Din Djarin actually Grogu's father at this point?
I think so. I'm sure that's a YouTube rabbit hole that you might be able to jump into for us. Interesting.
It is interesting too, just like the word father, because it has such a foundation with Star Wars in general. Because if you think about it, it's almost like a hidden Easter egg laying in plain sight. So when Darth Vader was revealed, for those that don't know, the word Vader actually means father. And so when that was revealed in episode 4, it was almost like George was hiding an Easter egg so that when episode 5 happened, oh, he's his father. His name
Mhm.
the whole time is basically just Darth Father.
Right. I love the videos. I don't know if you've seen any of the videos of like little kids finding out that Vader is the father of Luke. Like their parents are recording them, and they're always just absolutely devastated that they that
Oh, they're mad?
their father. Oh yeah, sometimes yeah. But
Really?
they're just devastated. Like, wait, he's the dad? Because I mean, he's the bad guy. You know, you don't normally think your dad as the bad guy,
Right,
but
right.
so yeah, I
I
thought that was pretty fun.
I think one of the biggest joys of Star Wars is watching it with someone for the first time who doesn't know that, and then when they learn that, they're like, "What? That can't be right. How does that make sense?"
Right, right.
I think it's something we take for granted, those of us that have seen those movies, like, dozens, if not hundreds
Oh,
of times.
I still love that scene though.
Yeah.
I could watch
Yeah,
it a
yeah,
million times. I still love that scene.
yeah. Speaking of Darth Vader, if I had to pick a favorite father of Star Wars, he would
Mhm.
probably be mine.
Vader would be your favorite
Yeah,
Star Wars? Yeah,
I'm a Vader fan at heart. I
true.
gotta I
I
gotta
mean,
go
I
with
have it on the
the guy.
shirt. That's on my shirt. Best dad in the galaxy, so it makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So much
Why
to love
Vader
about
then?
Vader. I mean, he's just very central to what Star Wars is in my mind. I
Mhm.
mean, really and you could, I guess, argue that 7, 8, and 9 are part of the Skywalker saga as well. I mean, technically they are according
You
to.
can argue, yeah, they actually are.
Well, yeah, they are, but also like, are
I know.
they?
Hey,
But yes,
listen,
I mean,
we had good things to talk about,
yeah,
7, 8, 9 when we were
yeah.
rewatching them.
Yes, this is true. This is true. I mean, that is what Star Wars is really, the Skywalker saga. It is about
Mhm.
the growth and evolution of Anakin as a person, and even later as like a machine, I guess. But then like his
Mhm.
journey back to person and really just love. Um,
Yeah.
going from this extreme grief and loss at a really young age, dealing with that, being frustrated, and that ultimately being his downfall that makes him slip closer and closer to the dark side.
Right,
And
of
then
course.
it's the love of his son, who that eventually brings him back. So I mean,
Mhm.
it's a story that we all know and love and hold dear,
Mhm.
and it's really key and central to what
Yeah.
Star Wars is. So I
Right, yeah.
guess, maybe a little bit of a cop out answer picking Vader, because when you think of dads in Star Wars, it's probably, like, the first one you think of, but for
Sure.
me, he's still my favorite dad, even though he was
Yeah.
kind of a lousy dad for most of his life.
Right, yeah. I mean, the character himself, aside from being a father, is one of your favorites out of the
Yes.
ones that are fathers, right?
Yeah. I wouldn't say his fatherhood is a good example of fatherhood, though.
Right, yeah. I mean, so, like, for me, mine would go a little bit more into the actual parenting of the child would be
Sure, yeah. Yeah,
Bail Organa. Obviously, him and his wife, Breha, I think her name is, right?
yeah.
Um, being the parents for Leia. And, look how good Leia came out to be, So I think we got a little bit more of a glimpse into his parenting style in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, which I think
Mhm.
was really cool. Um, and he was always just around. I mean, outside of being a father, his role in the Senate in everything, I mean, was pretty big, he was there during the Clone Wars. He was there, when I'm thinking about movies and Rogue One. Um, and I feel when we first saw Alderaan get blown up, you kind of really don't have any context of what that means. Like
True.
knowing that he and his family and everyone was there on that planet when that happened, like that really hurts now.
Right.
But to see Senator Bail Organa, kind of throughout Star Wars, I mean, he's a pretty pivotal if you really think about it throughout, a lot of the movies. So
Mm.
my pick would be him for a favorite father figure in Star Wars.
Yeah, in many ways, almost like the antithesis of Anakin. Like,
Mhm.
Anakin is the father who, you know, lost himself in his anger. Bale is, I mean, kind of like the stepfather who, like, adopts Leia in love and is like, "I'm
Mhm.
going to give you what Anakin didn't really."
Right, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, obviously, it's the same child too, so it's funny that,
Yeah,
we kind
yeah,
of picked that. I didn't even realize that
yeah.
until we were talking about it
This
there,
also
so
adds more credence to the "you are the light side and I am the dark side" trope that we
yep,
have
sounds
running through
about
this
right. It's not a
podcast.
trope anymore, I mean, it's it is the truth.
Yeah,
This is the truth we are finding episode by episode.
yeah. Well, that means this is my episode then, Joey.
That's right. This is absolutely your episode.
Yeah. Well, once again, happy Father's Day to
Thank
all
you.
the fathers,
Yeah.
uncles, and especially, to my co-host Joey.
Thank
Happy
you.
Father's
Yeah.
Day to you, my friend.
Yeah. And to on that note, I got a nice little Father's Day gift that I received
Yeah.
for my brother. I wanted to show off real quick. For all those watching the video version, my screen is now bigger. That means I'm more important right now. Um, but my favorite figure growing up was the Lando Calrissian skiff guard from Return of the Jedi, and that was always my favorite. So they had just released these new figures that from Return of the Jedi, kind of with the old looking molds of the actual figures. So my brother actually went and ordered one for me, and I was super happy. So here he is,
Oh,
Lando
nice.
Calrissian. I'm not sure if it's focusing right here. Hold on, let me do that. So yeah, you can see it's a little bit of an older like looking model, which I thought was pretty cool. And this is like kind of the original art that they had on the original box. So yeah, this is my favorite figure of all time, and now I own like a old version or like a newer version of it. So I'm pretty happy about it.
That's
And I,
awesome.
and I am one of those people that like keep things in the box, so this will be staying in the box unless I get a second one, and then I'll open and play with it. So, but yeah.
Also, for all audio listeners of the podcast, maybe we can throw that on the Hoth Hangout Instagram for
Oh, that's a good point.
uh,
Yeah, yeah.
check it out.
We will do that.
At Hoth Hangout over on Instagram, by the way. That's awesome though. That's cool. I don't know if my brothers, either of them, share an appreciation for Star Wars the same way I do.
Yeah.
So I hope to get a Star Wars gift from them one day.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, yeah. Me and my brother talk Star Wars. I mean, we're constantly sending each other Star Wars stuff like
Yeah.
every day, every other day, Instagram reels, whatever. So yeah, it's special with me and my brother Jay. So and
Nice.
happy Father's Day to him as well.
Hey, there you go. Well, a pretty cool gift you've received there for Father's
Yep,
Day.
for sure.
Yeah. The Lando, your favorite character. Oh, what's that
Oh,
noise?
I think it's time.
This is also part of the podcast where we continuously cross over our love of basketball and Star Wars by playing the NBA draft music to signal us that it is time for the first official dark side force user slash Sith draft, whatever we're calling it. Embrace the dark side you see on your screen right now.
Right.
Joey and I are each going to be going back and forth picking our 5 favorite Sith or dark side force users, and we're basically just gonna compare lists at the end, and, not so much with, like I think with the Jedi list that we did by the way, if you haven't checked out the, top 5 Jedi for each of us, that episode, I'll try to pin that on the screen here now, you might be able to see it if you're watching the video version of the podcast and you wanna check that one out. Um, but for these, it's not so much like which 5 would beat the other 5 in a duel, like, or anything like that. It's kind of just cumulatively our feelings about our favorites, more or less. Would that
Mhm.
be accurate to say, Joey?
Absolutely, and I think that's kind of how I played the Jedi one as well. We may
Yeah.
have named it like most powerful, but at the end of it, I think you and I we're big sports fans, so we ended up like kind of building the team that we want, you know.
Right,
So
yeah.
I think
You gotta
that's
have a good, like, power forward Sith, you can't just go
exactly
for the best one, you gotta go for a good power forward Sith.
right. That could like rebound and also shoot threes. Those are pretty
Yeah.
important
Yeah.
characteristics of a good Sith.
Yes, exactly. Oh, and you're going first, am I correct?
Oh, I guess I am going first because I went. You went first last
I
time,
did go
right?
first in our Jedi draft,
Oh
which is
wow,
ironic because for the Jedi draft, you would think that you should have gone first, and for the Sith
that's
draft
true.
but yes, to be completely fair, you, should get to
Okay,
go first in this draft. And I'm
let's
curious,
go.
before we start, I wanna preface it by saying, I feel like our picks are gonna be very different, and I'm
Hmm.
excited for that.
And
Uh,
also, we should also explain that this will spread across both canon and a little bit more of Legends as well.
right, so for those maybe listeners that aren't as familiar with non-movie or TV show for non-movie or TV show, you know, lore or general Star Wars knowledge, I'm gonna try to sparse in maybe at least 1 or 2 of those dark side force users here or there. So, if you're interested in any of the characters and maybe you've never heard about them before, definitely look them up after listening to the podcast. There's some pretty cool Star Wars characters out there that are part of the Legends universe too.
I'm saying we could do like a 45-minute episode of you just talking about the legends. I'm just
I
saying.
also told both Joey and Gibbo before we started, I was like, for most of these, I feel like people aren't gonna know stuff, and so I'll try not to be too long-winded with details if
All right,
there's
you all have proof that he said
Now
this
it's
is what
on
he
the
said.
record. It's on the record.
All right. Shall we start?
Let's do it. Who's your first
right.
pick?
Number 1 pick. Uncle Palpatine, Darth
That's a good
Sidious,
pick.
getting the number 1 pick from me. I mean, he has always been steps way ahead of his enemies. He's got the lightning, super cool. He pulled off coming back from the dead. We still have a lot to understand about the cloning technology and how he was able to do that, I think. And maybe there is a little bit more information out there that I haven't read up on. So I'm sure some listeners will be able to tell us a little bit more about that. But either way, yeah, I think Darth Sidious is an easy, simple number 1 pick for me. He's like Victor Wembanyama this year for me, I
Oh
think.
yeah. But that would imply that my pick is like nowhere near as good as he is.
This is my, my studying or my
Yeah.
personal views.
Also, did you know George Lucas considers him to be the most powerful Sith ever?
Oh, see, me and George are on the same lines there. There you go.
You and George are voting together on that one.
We do have the same looks.
Are you saying you and Sidious or you and George?
Oh, geez, I meant me and George, but I guess me too. Yes, I love it too. New cosplay, next cosplay.
Yeah. Well, that sound, I guess, means it's my turn to choose. I feel like I would be silly to not pick Darth Vader. And so I think I just gotta go with Darth Vader, you know?
Yeah, best available.
Yeah, like, is he the most powerful of all time? Maybe not, but, like, he's certainly the most iconic, I would argue.
Mhm.
You know, I kind of just went on a spiel during the Father's Day segment about Darth Vader, but everything about him, not only is he powerful, but I think it's just probably the most, interesting character arc in all of for me personally, the most interesting character arc in all of Star Wars, because you
Mhm.
really get I mean, that's what Star Wars is. It's the story of Darth Vader. It's the story of Anakin Skywalker. You get
Right.
to see his progression from, this little boy on Tatooine, "Now this is pod racing," to the point where, his son is redeeming him from all these evils and atrocities he's committed, and apart from just the story, he's really menacing looking in general. Like, you
True.
see that dude walk on the screen in New Hope and Tantive 4, and you're like, "Oh, that's the bad guy of this
Yeah, right.
franchise." Um, and, apart from that, he's just during his time as a Sith, and a lot of that time is also not as portrayed in canon. There's a lot of cool legend stuff that kind of showcases his real strength and power
Mm.
during that time as well. But of course, most known for perhaps Order 66 during that time, the beginning
Yeah.
of the end of the Jedi Order, or that period's Jedi Order. Um, so I've done enough ranting on Darth Vader. I'm going to try to keep it short, like I promised. Also known as the Champion of the Force. Part of my research for
Ooh.
these, I tried to look up nicknames for each of the characters I was going to choose. Champion of the Force,
I
Darth
mean,
Vader.
that's a good number 1 pick for a champion of the Force being your first pick for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. I love Darth
Nice.
Vader.
All right, number 2 pick for me. Ooh,
I
this
don't know
this
where you're gonna go here.
this one, and I'm gonna say the next sentence. You're gonna know who it is right away. This one, 6 months ago, I would not have picked them this high, but now I am picking them this high.
Is it a video game character?
No. It's someone in the movies.
Oh, it's in the sequel trilogies.
No.
Oh, really? Wait, now
Yeah.
I don't know. Who?
The prequel trilogies, Darth Tyrannus, Count
Oh,
Dooku,
okay.
getting the second pick from me. I mean, we've talked on and on about how this character has really become more important inside in the Star Wars world, with things like the thing that the animated thing that he was in just
Oh,
recently
Tales of
with
the Jedi.
Ahsoka? Tales of a Jedi, yes, Tales of Jedi, that was incredible. Um, they had the audiobook. Jedi Lost, right? Was that what it was called?
Yep. Yep.
And just more. I mean, I just need more Count Dooku in my life. So, pretty high pick, I think, for me. I mean, just again, we are going off of kind of the draft way of how we're doing things here. So not necessarily the most powerful, maybe not, but again, I think very influential in a lot of the things that have happened in Star Wars over the time in the universe. So I wouldn't say an easy second pick like Darth Sidious was, but he was definitely up there. And I had a feeling you weren't going to pick for him, so this one might be called the reach. You know how every draft when you're drafting with your buddies, there's the one guy that drafts like a quarterback in the first round. You're like, you're gonna pick Justin Fields right now. You could have gotten him in the third round, whatever. But I'm gonna put him. I'm gonna put him way up high here in the second round.
Does that mean you're picking him on future potential, or how does that work?
That's right. Yeah.
That's a good pick. I love Count Dooku. He's underrated as a character, and I was glad that we got to see more of him and Tales of the Jedi
Mhm.
really expanding his story in the canonical world.
Yes, absolutely.
Um, okay. Oof, I could go two different directions here. I think the next one I'm gonna pick is by no means anywhere near most powerful. In
Mhm.
fact, most people like the hardcore like Star Wars fanatics would probably not even put this guy top 10 in terms of most powerful Sith,
Ooh.
but I love him so much and he is so fundamental to my childhood love of Star Wars and just now my adult love of Star Wars. It's got to be Darth Maul at number 2.
Mhm.
The
Solid.
warlord of the Clone Wars, as I looked up.
These are some really good names you got here.
Yeah, aren't those cool? He is a Zabrak, which, by the way, is, I think, arguably the coolest looking species in Star Wars, which if you haven't checked out last week's episode of the Hoth Hangout podcast, we ranked the Zabrak species in the S tier by far, easily. He was a child of Mother Townsend, which if you've seen the Clone Wars show, you know who that is. And the apprentice eventually of Darth Sidious, survived after being cut in half by Obi-Wan Kenobi in episode 1, just on pure hatred for Obi-Wan, eventually resurfaces during the Clone Wars, which, by the way, at the time, people were upset about this, but it's funny looking back on it, like, over 10 years later now, 'cause that's one of the best decisions they made with the Clone Wars.
Mhm.
'Cause then later on, he was even in Rebels and
Mhm.
influenced that storyline, and so he's not just this character who randomly pops up with 5 lines in the first episode. He's this character that is kind of pervasive throughout the Clone Wars and even into, uh, the 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 fall of the Republic and the rise of the Empire era too. His sort of yin and yang with Obi-Wan is also one of my favorite parts about
Mhm.
Darth Maul. His
Mhm.
obsession with needing to kill him after, what Obi-Wan does to him early on in the prequels. Um, and I think just as a character, having a double-bladed lightsaber is like,
I
okay,
mean,
he's my favorite.
right, yeah. And that was the first time we had really seen that in live
Yes.
action, right?
Yeah. I think is there another live action double-bladed lightsaber?
I mean
Not
I
I mean,
mean
I
outside of like the Inquisitors in the Obi-Wan Kenobi series now.
sure, yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, yeah. But it does is yeah, the spinning ones, I'm like, "Okay, that's cool," but Darth
Mhm.
Maul did it first
Yeah,
and
right, yeah.
better.
Yeah. You always remember the first ones, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I was watching a prequel documentary. Does that surprise you, by the way?
No, not at all.
Um, a prequel documentary about Darth Maul and how George Lucas was talking to this concept artist and was like, "I just want him to look like the embodiment of fear." And so
Nailed
that's
it.
what Darth Maul is. He is my second pick and the warlord of the Clone Wars, the embodiment of fear.
Nice. All right. So this one, oh boy. I will admit there isn't a lot I know about this one, but it's kind of like best available. It's like one of those picks that I got to do,
Okay, okay.
that I'm fully aware that, and maybe Ben, maybe you could even brief us a little bit even more about what this character is doing. He's getting scared right now, by the way. If you see his
I'm
face, he's
so
like,
it's
"Oh
funny
no."
when we do these live drafts, I have like stuff up on my other monitor where I'm like researching. Okay, if he picks this person, who's my next pick?
He's got flow charts of things. So have you ever heard the story
Of Darth
of
Plagueis the
of
Wise.
Darth Plagueis the Wise? That's right. Um, Obviously very important of in the world of the Sith. He was the master of Sidious, right?
Mm-hmm.
And really his story was, and I know that there's a lot more lore around him. I will admit I am not, as we proved in our trivia episode, we don't know everything about Star Wars by any means. That's why I say I'm going to pick him without really knowing too much about exactly what they bring to the table. But like I said, I think that is a solid pick at the 3 pick. Being kind of the story that really led Anakin down the road to move towards the dark side when he heard the story, that's what he wanted as well for Padme and everything like that. So again, I don't know anything about this particular character, but that's who I picked for the 3rd pick.
No, that's a good pick. He was on my so before we started, I told Joey I had 10 that I was gonna kind of choose from. And he was one of the 10 on my list. So
Mm-hmm.
it's something that Plagueis was known for, was kind of his more compared to other Sith, he really valued like science and the ability to prolong life. Um, a lot of Sith are kind of known for prolonging life as like a Sith spirit, but like Plagueis was really
Mm-hmm.
concerned with like life and not dying and even eventually creating life, which he's believed not officially canon, but more or less it is to be the person who created Anakin
Right.
within Shmi. So then, of course, yes, the iconic quote in Revenge of the Sith where they're sitting in that weird demonstration of something going on in the Senate where Palpatine is talking to Anakin and
Wasn't it like a concert or something like that, or a
yeah,
ballet,
but it's like
or
a goal. Oh, it might have been a ballet. I think you're
yeah.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It does sound right. Also, when I was doing research for this character, um, not only did he have the ability to manipulate the Force, but he's also known for his incredible speed, which I did not know prior to learning this.
Oh,
And for all
interesting.
you hardcore, diehard fans of the original trilogy who may or may not have hated on the prequels when they came out because of the concept of midi-chlorians, you can blame Darth Plagueis.
Oh, thanks, Darth
Yeah.
Plagueis. And we know speed is very important, especially if you play Raid Shadow Legends. Not,
Yes,
spo- not sponsored.
shout out to all the RSL players. Hey, Raid, if you want to sponsor our podcast. All right, time for my 3rd pick. Now, actually, I really do like your 3rd pick. He was arguably going to be on my list too. Okay, I think I have to go. This one you knew I was probably going to have as one of my 5.
Yeah.
I appreciate you not stealing him at number 3. I gotta go with my guy Darth Revan.
Oh, what? No way. I am shocked.
Probably no, not probably. Definitely my favorite uh Legends Dark Side Force user. You even hesitate calling him a Sith. I think I've talked about his story on I don't remember what episode we were doing where I went on that Revan spiel, but um Revan lived like approximately 4,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, or A New Hope for those of you who aren't familiar with the Star Wars chronology nomenclature. Um, Darth Revan is interesting because he is, I think, our second person, no, third person on this list of 6 so far who was a Jedi before joining the dark side, as well as Darth Vader and Darth Tyrannus. He also wielded 2 lightsabers, which is pretty cool. One purple and one red, although didn't wield those 2 until later on. Revan is interesting because he was a Jedi, became a Jedi Knight. This is during the Mandalorian Wars, which again takes place like 4,000 years before the original trilogy. He defeats Mandalore the Ultimate, which is why, if you're watching the video version of the podcast, or if you're familiar with what Revan looks like, you can see that mask. That mask actually belonged to Mandalore the Ultimate, and Revan took it from him and donned it as his own when he defeated him,
Oh,
along with his friend Malik, who at later on would become Darth Malik with Darth Revan. because they were swayed to the dark side by the Emperor Vitiate or Darth Vitiate at the time. So they were good. Both of them became bad, became Sith. Malak Revan, they actually have like a run in. Malak becomes the apprentice of Revan after Revan kind of supplants him as the better of the two. Is eventually betrayed by Malak, captured by the Jedi. The Jedi wipe his mind. He becomes good again. He's retrained as a Padawan. He defeats his old friend Malak, who was a Sith.
Wow, man, this is a
Uh,
story.
Goes searching for answers about his past because, again, his mind was wiped and he doesn't remember being a Sith. He's then captured and tortured for 300 years
Huh.
by the same emperor who originally turned him to the dark side, which results in his mind splitting. He founds the order called the Order of Revan, which is also the origin of the Knights of Ren in the
Mm.
sequel trilogy, kind of or I guess the inspiration for it, more or less. And so within his own mind, he possesses almost two consciences, like a light side Revan and a dark side Revan. And eventually he's able to like, what's the word? Merge those two consciousness to defeat, well, kind of defeat
Wow.
Emperor Vitiate. Um, and a lot of people don't know. So Darth Bane, who is the founder of the Rule of Two, which is why there's always a master and apprentice. Um, the reason he creates that rule is because he finds a holocron from Darth Revan and uses Revan's teachings to influence or to create the Rule of Two. So while Bane did create the Rule of Two, he was heavily influenced by the teachings of Darth Revan. So
Mm.
um, Revan's influence extends beyond just his own time period. And if you've never played the games, oh my gosh, why am I blanking? Knights of the Old Republic.
That's it. Yeah, right.
If you've never played Knights of the Old Republic, great games, and you learn a lot more about the story of Revan too. So
Which I think
um,
they're redoing, right? Aren't they
yes, and I'm so
yeah,
excited
redoing and
for that.
re-releasing that? Yeah.
Yeah. Just
Nice.
like a really powerful Sith. I've already talked about him probably too long because he's my favorite. So I'll leave it at the fact that he is known as the Wanderer of both worlds,
No.
hinting at both his light and dark side. But during his time as a Sith, he was known as Revan the Butcher. So
Oh. So he like cut meat up too. Cool.
yes, yeah, he was a meat cutter on the side. Yes.
Amazing.
Darth Revan, too long-winded. Joey, what's your fourth number pick? Number 4 pick.
My fourth pick. Okay. So as you can see between me and Ben, I am team auto draft, and Ben has gone down the rabbit holes and trying to figure out getting the exact people that he wants. So I'm going to just continue my auto draft. Don't mind me. As we continue on, the one thing that I found when we were making these lists is that there was a lot of, we wanted to get 10 picks out, right? And there was, for me anyways, it was starting to get hard for me to know exactly everybody because Ben brought in all these legends one, and I'm like, I'm probably not going to pick any of those, so those are all his. So that's why we kind of started bringing in some of the dark side users as well. So this is the first one that is not necessarily somebody who is a Sith. They were more of a dark side user from my understanding anyway. So my fourth pick would be Asajj Ventress.
Nice.
My one of my favorite characters to come out of the Clone Wars for sure. And when we were watching the older version of the Clone Wars as well,
Oh,
if you
yeah.
haven't watched that video, that's a lot of fun as well. It just kind of added to the lore of her, and she has a great story with Quinlan Voss in the Dark Disciple book.
I need to read that still.
That is so good. You got to read that. She was an apprentice to Darth Tyrannus, Count Dooku for a time. I believe she was a Jedi. She was a Jedi before that as well. Before she had turned to the dark side, just like many of these others that we've kind of mentioned here. So there's a lot of conflict within her. And she, kind of at the end, she didn't really want to be a part of the dark side or part, under Darth Tyrannus anymore. And we kind of saw that play out a little bit in the Clone Wars. So one of my favorite characters, I think I've mentioned this before. One of my favorite characters, kind of in all of Star Wars, not even just animated, but in all of Star Wars, definitely as Asajj Ventress, and an easy pick for the number 4 pick for me because one, because I like her so much, and two, I don't know all these Legends guys, you know what I mean? So, so yeah, I do. So fourth pick, Asajj Ventress.
Nice. She is arguably the most underutilized character of the Clone
Mm,
Wars. Like,
mhm,
something I think Disney should do with and they probably won't, they should put out an Asajj Ventress, like, solo movie where it's
mhm.
just, like, her backstory. I would
Yeah,
I would be all
I
down
I
for that.
would I would like a Tales of the Jedi with her.
That'd be even that would be really cool. I
Yeah,
just I would like to get more about her either origins or, like, for the
yeah,
Clone Wars.
absolutely.
But, yeah, I like that pick. I like that pick. Okay, dude, I have, like, 6 that I'm, like, contemplating for the rest of this. And I also, like, wanna put forth, like, worthy and valid characters that people who don't know about them can, like, look up, and I wanna
Mhm.
get good ones, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
I think
Here to
I'm
educate too.
yeah.
Me, yeah, educate me.
Okay, I think I'm going to go with Darth Nihilus for my 4th
Oh,
pick.
okay.
I was between him and 2 other people, and I'm gonna have a really hard choice for my number 5th pick or number 5 pick, but, uh, Dark Nihilus was originally a human. And for those of you who have, ever seen a picture of him, he basically looks like I think Darth Nihilus actually is the most scary looking Sith, uh,
Mhm.
just on a personal note. He's also a fan favorite because of the way he looks. So the reason he looks this way, he's almost has this, like, half a mask on the top of his face. And so
Like
he was
Jason.
yeah, exactly. So, when he was still, fully an embodied human, he suffered exposure from a super weapon.
Oh,
And so what this super weapon did was it began to slowly corrode his skin and eventually his organs too, so that his physical body began to deteriorate to the point where eventually nothing but his soul remained. And so he
wow.
bound his spirit to what you see in images of him, which is known as a death mask. Um, and so he is then from that point on known as the Lord of Hunger and possess the ability to drain entire planets of their energy. And
Yowza.
so I just think he's a cool looking character for one, but just someone who has the ability to drain entire life force from planets. And I would like to actually do more reading on him in Legends. I think most of my nihilist knowledge is actually just from like reading wikis and watching YouTube
Mm.
videos. So if anyone has Darth Nihilus recommendations for me, feel free to
Does
comment them on the YouTube video.
now does he have a does Darth Nihilus have a nickname?
Yes, the Lord of Hunger.
Lord of
So
Hunger.
the
Wait,
way
no,
he
no. That's my nickname.
I thought that was my nickname, honestly. Uh, yeah, so the way Darth Nihilus persists, like, as a entity, since he no longer has a physical body, is by absorbing the life forces of other beings or worlds, and so, that's how he obtained the pseudonym of Lord of Hunger. But, yeah, a pretty cool character. I need to learn more about him myself, but that's my 4th pick. Joey, who you going with
Nice.
for number 5?
My last pick. Now, if you remember from the Jedi draft, I brought in somebody pretty who you wouldn't have thought would be the fifth pick, but I think it was Sifo Dyas is who I picked up in the fifth pick in the Jedi draft. So I'm gonna do something similar here as well. Somebody who maybe you wouldn't have thought Ben's face right now. So
I know who you're picking. I think I know who you're picking.
okay, so somebody who probably won't make it on many people's lists. But like I said, I like to mix it up. I want to round out this team. I think they're again. You can guess. I'll let you guess before.
Listen, if you're the
Yeah.
person watching the video version of this podcast who's about to comment after Joey says this, stop hating on the sequel trilogy.
I think he nailed it. I think he nailed it, y'all. Kylo Ren, number 5 pick from me, and comments below. We'll expect you there. Yeah, I think honestly, I think there's more to his story than we need to know about too. I think he is the upside pick of my draft, where there's just a lot more that we need to learn about. at first, I will admit I wasn't a huge fan of Kylo Ren going into Force Awakens. He was a little bit, I don't know. I didn't really enjoy his character, but kind of throughout the sequel trilogy, he ended up being, kind of a staple of it, obviously because him being the bad guy for it, but also his, Adam Driver himself, great actor, and he really helped carry that sequel trilogy too, so as well. But I mean, as a character himself, um, just he had a lot of raw energy. I think that's kind of why I liked him. Even all the way down to his lightsaber, it was kind of jagged. It kind of didn't look like he was properly made. He had I mean, I liked kind of his look as well. I he did look a little bit. He didn't look as intimidating as some of the other ones that we have brought up through this draft. So I will give everybody that. But I think for the most part, kind of his story, along with him and Ray. I mean, you guys know that Ray is one of my favorite characters as well. So I think the story that they have together, kind of maybe not exactly how I wanted it to play out, but I'm not, I'm not a writer here, but I think at the end of it, I think that I really enjoyed his story. I think there's still more to his story, maybe not obviously after the sequel trilogy, but kind of going to where he ended up there, from with the Jedi Temple, with Luke, and even before that. I just think that there's a lot more to Kylo Ren that we've seen, and I think if there's more content out there, I think this is a easier pick for me as well.
Nice. I can appreciate a Kylo Ren pick. I can appreciate a Kylo. He's I think probably I would say the best part about the sequels.
Yeah.
I I don't know. You might say Ray, which I can
Right.
respect.
Yeah. Right.
I
Yeah.
I, I like Kylo as a character. I feel like they could have tapped into his progression as a character a little bit better, and a lot
Mhm.
of that is for reasons we've discussed about the sequels that because they
Kind
were
of
different
like
directors.
overall issues with the sequels themselves.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Exactly.
but definitely one of the high points of
Yeah.
that trilogy, and,
Yeah. So I'm more basing off the character, not necessarily the movies, if that makes any sense.
sure, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Nice. I can appreciate that pick. Also, again, you about to comment about the sequels, don't do it. Don't do it.
Or do it. We enjoy the
Or do it.
engagement.
Or yeah. Bad press is good press. Is that what the
Yeah,
expression
that's right.
is?
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
I'm the
okay.
controversial one. Yeah, I'm the shock jock of the two of us, apparently.
For my 5th and final pick, can I give, like, 2, no, 3 honorable mentions by just naming them?
Yeah, just name them. Yeah, go ahead.
So, my 3 honorable mentions are Exar Kun,
Mhm.
Darth Krayt, and it's really hard for me to not put Darth Bane on this list because he's so foundational for the Order of
Yeah.
2, um, and just kind of modernizing the Sith during his time. And side note, if you haven't seen the Clone Wars show, there's a really cool part in the 6th season where Yoda is, like, learning more about the Force, where he has an interaction with
Oh,
the
yes,
spirit
yes,
of
yes.
Darth Bane. Definitely check out that, episode or that season of Clone Wars if you haven't seen it. So those are my 3 honorable mentions, Exar Kun, Darth Krayt, and Darth Bane. But my 5th pick, I think I'm gonna go with Emperor Vitiate,
Mm,
who is very arguably in terms of power. If we were doing like a top 5 most powerful, he probably would have been either my first or second pick.
okay.
He is known as the embodiment of immortality, and he served as the Sith Emperor for over 1,200 years, approximately like 5,000 to roughly 4,000 years before the Battle of Yavin. Or no, I'm sorry, not 1,200 years. Um, I read the nomenclature wrong. He was Sith Emperor from 5113 BBY. Is that right? This is not right. I think I mistyped something. I think it was
For a long
1,200
time.
years. My original statement. He lived over 1,000 years. That's what I'm trying to say. He was the Sith Emperor for over 1,000 years. So when he was 10, he killed his own father by merely thinking bad thoughts about him.
Oh.
So didn't even like physically do anything to him, just imprisoned him, I think in like a holocron or like a
Oh.
temple of some kind, for over 1,000 years. So essentially like getting rid of his father. Yeah, I know I
Yeah.
got dark. I'm sorry. Uh,
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day. Um, So Vitiate was also known for mastering what was called essence transfer, and he learned the ability to not only move his consciousness from one vessel to another, but he also possessed the ability to um, sort of split his consciousness between
Mm,
vessels as well. So he was originally a Sith apprentice, but eventually proclaimed himself emperor, and actually would later on not even consider himself Darth Vitiate, just Emperor Vitiate.
mhm.
And so later, when he learned the ability to divide his consciousness, one of the main consciousness. What am I trying to say? Conscience, multiple of
Yeah.
conscience,
Yes.
was Valkorion, which is also another name he was known by.
Mm,
He's also known for initiating the war between the Sith and the Galactic Republic approximately 5,000 years before the Battle of Yavin. Had a fleet which possessed unmatched technology at the time, which I think it's on the record that this fleet is also the inspiration for the fleet that you see in Rise of Skywalker in Episode
oh, okay.
9. And so this fleet was eventually known as the Eternal Fleet or the Eternal Empire. He orchestrated the Mandalorian Wars, which, as I was talking about with
Mm,
Darth Revan earlier, he fought in the Mandalorian Wars. And also, Emperor Vitiate was the one that swayed Darth Revan to the dark side.
right.
Um, and then Revan kind of kills him, but then Emperor Vitiate does come back later
Ah,
and
these
assumes
emperors,
power.
they know how to come back.
They know how to come back, yeah. And then
Somehow, Vitiate has returned.
yes, yes. So he's known as being like one of the most powerful dark side force users of all time. And there's a really cool trailer. If anyone has not seen the trailers for the Old Republic games,
Yes, I know
um,
exactly which ones you're talking about.
yes, there's one trailer that kind of showcases Vitiate in it, and it's the one with his two sons,
Mhm.
Arkan and Thexan, I want to say are their names, and it is those trailers, by the way, are really great. If you haven't seen them all, they're incredible. But it gives you like a very small taste of kind of what his power is and his sway over people. So just all of those things collectively, his unmatched power and his focus on immortality, he comes back from death basically like multiple times.
Mm,
Um, Emperor of the Sith, Emperor Vitiate, the embodiment
nice.
of immortality.
Yeah, sounds good. I mean, that's pretty much all the Sith. I mean, always, coming back and,
Yeah, yeah,
never can kill I mean, Darth Maul was cut in half. I mean, he came back
yeah,
and was
yeah.
around for a real long time.
Somehow
Somehow,
he
Vitiate
has
has returned.
returned.
Very good. How you feeling about these picks?
I enjoyed this episode, Joey.
Yes. Shocking. I did not think you'd like to talk about Sith so much now.
Yeah, yeah. There's so many cool facts out there about a lot of these people. Another one that I didn't even include, which I told you right before we started recording, was Darth Caedus,
Mhm.
who is Anakin's grandson in Legends. Uh,
Oh,
really powerful as well. Look him up. That's another honorable mention. But
nice.
yeah, I feel good about my list. I'm glad I got to include Nihilus and Vitiate
Yeah,
were like my powerful ones, and then
yeah,
I mean Revan's powerful too. And Vader is as well, but like
yeah.
Vader and Maul are like my heart picks, you know?
Right, yeah, and I think the more exposure that we have to particular characters, I think that's where we kind of where our hearts end up going towards.
Yeah, yeah,
It's kinda like Vader, Sidious, Tyrannus and all that. So I no, I enjoyed this as well, and yeah, let us know what you guys think of our picks, especially my number 5 pick if you guys wanna really get into
yeah.
it.
Well, now we've done light side and dark side. Does this mean we're gonna do like a bounty hunters draft eventually?
Oh, I like
It'd be kind of
that.
fun.
That sounds fun. Yeah.
Comment down below if you're watching the video version of the podcast what our next draft should be. Bounty hunters, maybe droids.
Droids. Oh, that's a good one too, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, yeah, this was a fun one. Again, I like the Sith stuff, so thanks for bearing with me as I kind of nerded out on this episode.
No, listen, when so we have like a working document every week that we work on, just like what we're gonna talk about throughout the podcast, and then Ben just drops all these names that he wants to be included for the draft. I'm like, oh well, I know
I
who
l
he's at least 2 or 3 that he's picking
Yeah.
from.
I look at our document and, Joey had, like, all these Sith and dark side force users laid out, and I was like I put a separate bullet and it says Legend Sith been added. LOL.
Sith Ben. That's right. Yeah, I mean, he does have the hood on today, guys. So,
Yeah.
this is Seth Ben right here.
Yep. Also, let us know down below in the comments of the video version of the podcast what your favorite Sith of all time is, or if you want to make a list, go for it. That works as well. We'd love to check it out and see what your favorite ones are. On next week's episode, I will be away, as we mentioned at the beginning of this podcast. Special guest host coming in at you.
Ooh.
Joey, you want to promo the guest host at all?
Ooh, no, we're gonna keep that a secret.
Oh, it's a surprise. I'm sorry.
It's a surprise. Yeah.
Okay.
No, but yeah, just somebody that I've been wanting to bring on the podcast as well. I meant for like the three of us to talk at some point, but we
Yes.
can go to the two of us. But
We
no,
we might still need to do an episode eventually where you advocate for the originals, I advocate for the prequels,
Yes.
and another guest advocates for the
for the sequels. Yeah, that'd be a fun one. That'd be a fun one for sure. But yeah, no, as Ben is going to be gone for the next couple of weeks, I'll try to again lead this podcast over the next couple of weeks. So hope you come back.
Yes, definitely stay tuned for the next few weeks episodes where Joey and one or multiple special guests.
Yes, maybe. We'll see.
Okay. Stay tuned to find out how many special guests there's going to be. Be on the lookout for it. And I will be gone until like July 17th. So,
well, have a great trip, man.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. And hopefully we'll be able to get something recorded in between like the middle of July and the beginning of August when I leave again. So,
yep. Just be back before Ahsoka. That's all I ask.
I will definitely be. So that was when the release date came out. I was like, oh yes, I will be home for that. So
yes.
live reactions to Ahsoka coming in about 2 months' time as well. Stay tuned for that. Additionally, well, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Hoth Hangout podcast. This has been episode number 38, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
We're cranking slowly towards that big episode 50 here soon. It's crazy to think that this will be what 9 months since we started the podcast now.
Wow, I guess so, huh?
Yeah,
That's wild.
Coming up on a year, not too long. It'll be just around the time of.
We need to do like a year anniversary special podcast or something
That'd
like
be
that.
fun.
Some of our favorite moments or something like that.
Eventually, Joey and I are gonna have to do a live recording too, like in the same location. I mean, where we're
that'd be great.
Yeah. Well, again, if you would like to check out the Hoth Hangout podcast, we're available everywhere you get your podcasts, including Spotify and Apple. Give it a 5 stars on those platforms. That was something I was looking at the other day, and I was like, oh, yeah, people can rate them. So if you love the podcast, rate it 5 stars on Apple or Spotify. Recommend it to a friend. And again, thanks for watching the video version of the podcast. If you're watching over on YouTube, be sure to be subscribed there as well for more content, not just the podcast, but for when shows are coming out, the live reactions like Ahsoka in 2 months. Check us out on all the socials, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. Again, if you want to check out that Lando Calrissian that Joey's brother got him for Father's Day, photo will be available over at Hoth Hangout on Instagram. Definitely check us out over there. This has been a really fun one, Joey. Thanks for, again, putting up with me during the Sith draft. Any last thoughts or comments on this episode?
Oh, again, have a great trip, man. We'll miss you. And take care. And when we get back, we're just gonna do this all over again. So have a good trip, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to being back, talking more Star Wars, and I'll see everyone in about a month's time. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Hoth Hangout podcast, and may the Force be with you.